All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we are talking specifically about Elisha. I gave you a heads up at the end of last time that we're going to be focusing on Elisha and the way that Elisha fits into a trend of what does a prophet like Moses act like. And
Mhm.
specifically today, I want to carve out a little bit of time at the end, specifically because Elisha resembles a little bit more of the guy we talk about in the New Testament.
Mhm.
And talk about some of the tropes, some of the similarities, and what's going on here.
Mhm.
So, with that, let us jump into chapter 3 because once again, we have a war with Moab, and there's a few details that are going on that you kind of have to pull apart the politics at the time to fully understand a little bit of the dynamics and why everyone's jumping in. So, let's start with I always do this. I've read, like I was reading this, I didn't practice my pronunciations. Jehoram, I believe is how you say that name. So he is another son of Ahab. If you remember, the first in line to the throne died last week. He fell through the lattice. He didn't make it, so now it assumes one of his brothers has assumed the throne. So, what did you make of the fact that the narrator is saying that he removed the pillars of Baal that his father has made, but he is still not considered a good king? Why would he be considered a bad king even though he got rid of the idols and other gods?
Well, he's still suffering from the sins of his father or his relatives.
So he clings to the sin of Jeroboam. Do you all remember who Jeroboam is?
Yes.
Jeroboam was married to Jezebel?
Nope,
No, no,
that
no.
was Ahab.
Uh, okay.
Jeroboam was the king of Israel, wasn't
Specifically, he was the first king
he? King.
of the divided kingdom of Israel.
Okay. But where you look on this thing you gave us, where you look where Jer- Jeroram is, he's over on the other side. That's where his name is. He's not under Ahab or even in Ahab's line. He's
He's
over
not.
here on the side of Judah.
Well, it says right here that he clung to the sin of Jeroboam.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Okay.
give me just a second. I did not go person by person, Larry. I will admit if there's errors in that graph,
Well,
I
it's just confusing because you know this book says because of what they found on that stone in 1868 that maybe Jeroboam wasn't a son of Ahab, but rather was in his lineage. He was a descendant
uh-huh.
because somewhere it says Jeroboam what doesn't do something till after Ahab dies. Well, so trying to, I don't know. I just get confused as to who's and where's Elijah? Which side is he on?
Elijah is not a king.
No, he's
Um,
not a king, but
no,
he's
Elijah is not a king.
associated.
He's just a prophet.
Yeah, but isn't he sort of? Doesn't he sort of lean more towards Israel than he does Judah?
Yes. So both Elijah and Elisha, both of them are from the north, and so
Okay,
they're only concerned with the dealings of Israel. Occasionally, when they
okay,
go on the run, they have to go south.
okay. All right, gotcha.
So they won't be in the lineages. And I'm double checking something here. Um Ahab. Okay, so the other, let me get this up for you.
Jehoram. Okay,
I'm cross-referencing it with another image. This one's a little less readable in my opinion. Whoop, there we are. So the top are the kings of Israel, the kings of Judah are down here. And if you tilt your head, we have Ahab, Ahaziah, Joram. Oh, I think that's spelled differently.
That's Joram, right? Joram.
there's something J.
I'm wondering if there's two different spellings to this name because that Joram and Jehoram, that's a transliteration. So Joram, I think, is the same person.
Oh,
All right, that's confusing because then if we go over here, okay, because yeah, that makes there we have it. So Ahab, Ahaziah, and Joram.
but then you go over to Judah, and there, right under Jehoshaphat's,
Is
Jehoram.
Jehoram.
That's a different.
Yes. The thing is, there are repeats of, people. If there are repeat names on either side, that just means there's two people with the same name.
Okay.
Um, I'm gonna look into that, to see if I can figure out what's going on with the spelling.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's keep ourselves moving. So Jehoram, Joram,
It doesn't
Joram.
make any difference. Yeah.
Either way, this is a son of Ahab. So this is Jezebel is still alive. I want to remind you of that. Jezebel is still kicking around, so his mother is alive. It's just his father that's dead.
Okay.
So he removes the pillars for the Canaanite god.
Okay.
But this is still in the north. And so it is said he is still committing the sin of Jeroboam. And so the question is, what did Jeroboam do that was considered naughty?
Yeah.
Is he the one that didn't kill a bunch of people that the Lord told him he should?
I don't remember, but that is not the specific sin.
Oh,
So if we rewind ourselves a little bit, when the two Elisha, or no, that's the wrong one. There is a prophet that came, if you remember the house of Israel when it was united, you have one of Solomon's sons who he seeks advice from his advisors. And he's like, how should I deal with the Northern Kingdom? They want less taxes. They want like a little bit of relief. They want an easier life. What should I do? And the old men were like, give them an easier route and they'll be your servants forever. And he's like, I don't know if I want to do that. And he goes to his young friends, and his young friends say, be stronger, be harder on them, threaten them. And the response is that the northern tribes secede. Jeroboam is the one who led that secession. He was like the union leader that's like, okay, what share in the house of David do we have? And that's when they part. So that was not necessarily considered the sin of Jeroboam. Do you all remember what happens afterwards that Jeroboam does to kind of secure his reign as a first-time king as a seceded nation?
he must have killed off a bunch of something.
It actually doesn't deal with killing for once.
Oh,
This is in and around 1 Kings 13, 1 Kings 14. I didn't look at it specifically. But I'll help you all out. Oh, actually I lied. It is 1 Kings 12. Starting in verse 25. Jeram built Shechem on the hill out of the country of Ephraim, and resided there. He went out and built Peniel, and Jeroboam said to himself, "Now the kingdom may well revert to the house of David. If the people continue to go and offer sacrifices in the house of the Lord in Jerusalem, the heart of the people will turn against their master, King Rehoboam of Judah, and they will kill me, and return to the king of Rehoboam in Judah." So he took counsel and made calves of gold, and he said to people, "You have gone up to Jerusalem long enough. Here are your gods, O Israel, the ones who brought you out of Egypt."
Hmm.
So the sin of Jeroboam is the fact that he made a different worshiping site that was not Jerusalem, but was in the northern kingdom of Israel.
Okay.
Doesn't matter that Jeroboam, in his mind, was staying faithful to the Israelite God. He made a different worshiping site, and he made 2 golden calves as a representation of a non-represented, non-visualized God.
Hmm.
So the translation of what our new king, Jehoram, is doing, he cuts down the idols, but he is not telling the people to go down to Israel. He is maintaining the worshiping sites that Jeroboam established. And so the southern kingdoms still see the northern kingdoms as apostate, as sacrilegious, because they're not coming down to Jerusalem, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So he's kind of like a middling bad king, because it's like, well, he's not encouraging the worship of other gods, but he's still not telling people to go to Jerusalem, and the southern kingdom doesn't like that. But this also explains his respect for Elijah and Elisha, is because he respects what we would say is Yahweh, the Israelite God. He thinks he is worshiping that God. And so he sees the representative of that God as an authoritative figure.
Oh.
So that sets up our situation here. Thanks for hanging in with me. I know that was a longer explanation of why he respects Elisha the way he does.
Hmm.
Okay, I wanted to ask, was there a time that people from Israel did go down to Judah to worship? I don't remember that.
So when you had a united kingdom,
Yeah,
like
I know then. Yeah.
then yes. Otherwise, there may have been individuals that
Okay.
did,
So
but
it
not
wasn't
as a
really common
nation, no.
practice.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So
And
that
kind of on another path, where is Moab? I mean, this is talking about not the kingdom of Moab and the king,
mhm.
but I don't know where that is.
Okay. Let me get out a map real quick. This one's going to be slightly outdated because it is uh, during the time of the tribes, but I will try to translate it for us. Um, all right. So this is very out of date for the time where we are, but it'll work. These are the 12 tribes. Moab is down here. So the thing to remember though is Judah is just basically this part and Benjamin up here. So this is all of Judah, and then Israel is all of these northern tribes, but also, unlike the state of Israel today, the country of Israel or the kingdom of Israel stretches to the other side of the Jordan River and has a little bit of territory down here. So Moab is basically attacking this, or is not attacking per se yet. First, they are just not providing sheep. But it's down here, which explains why you have to go through Edom, because Edom is also down here. And so the path, the war path, is not to cross over and go through the wilderness up here. It is to go through the set of valleys where they can go through Judah, and then go across, collect Edom, and then go up to Moab.
Mhm.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me see. Do I have a better... I try to save... When I show you images, I do try to save them so I can go back and reference them. Oh, here we go. This is actually an easier one to see. There we go. Why? There we go. So now you can see this one has a better illustration because this is the divided kingdom, but again, you have Moab here and Edom down here. But you can see Israel stretches very far on both sides of the Jordan River at this point.
Mhm.
A lot of the land to the east of the Jordan is good for sheep and farming. So when they were going into the promised land in the book of Judges, you will remember they made the march up on the east side of the Jordan.
Mhm.
And there was a few tribes that said, "Hey, this is great land. We're herders. This is great grazing land. We're gonna stay here." And that was like Reuben and another one. So this remains a part of the Israelite territory, but Moab's down here, and it's a much smaller nation.
Mhm.
So,
Right there.
Okay.
all right. Any other questions?
Well, that one also showed where the sanctuaries were built at Dan and uh, so the places where the
Yes.
sins were. Yeah,
Mhm.
that also pointed that out.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even notice that. That's awesome.
Did.
All right. So, the thing that is interesting about this point in time is that Israel is the most powerful and dominant of those local kingdoms at this point in time. So the thing that takes a little bit of research to or digging into is, why would Judah participate? Why would Edom participate? Why is Moab acting up? So if you think of Israel as the most dominant of the kingdoms, what is happening with the smaller kingdoms that Israel is feeling the need to go in and gain support from some and have an intervention with another one? Why? Did any of you have a guess?
Well, wasn't there a problem with them not holding up to treaty or whatever you might call it, some agreements,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
like sheep and so forth?
So Moab doesn't want to share its sheep anymore.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is, this is not just a trade agreement. This is not, "Hey, we've worked out a bargain. We're going to give you this and you're going to give us this." There is no back and forth between Moab and Israel, which makes the sheep and the wool what?
Tribute.
Tribute. This is taxes. Moab doesn't want to pay the kingdom of Israel its tribute, which means that Israel has effectively made Moab a vassal state.
Mhm.
The implication that Israel can just march into Judah and ask the king of Judah for support also means that Judah is a vassal kingdom.
Mhm.
And the fact that they then go around and do the same thing to Edom
Edom.
implies that Edom is also a vassal state.
Oh,
So the situation is a more powerful kingdom is trying to keep its smaller kingdoms in line. So how does that change the situation here?
Well, it makes Israel look like the aggressor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is also like a little mini empire. This is less like king as an emperor, but you do have a stronger settlement and a bunch of weaker ones that have kind of banded together because there are some massive empires at this point in time. And so this little group is kind of banding together, and Israel, being the most dominant one, wants to keep the little ones in line.
Mm.
So with that, the king of Israel goes, collects the vassal kingdoms, but they kind of walk around the wilderness for a while. Where they are in the south is very desert, like only water in the rainy season.
Oh, okay.
And 7 days they walk around, and then word comes to them that a man of God is in the wilderness, and that's when they encounter Elisha.
Mhm.
So when the king of Israel wants to talk with Elisha, what do you make of Elisha's response here? Because he doesn't seem overly excited with helping this band of people.
Well, Elisha wasn't any fan of Ahab.
No.
And so he's not going to be a fan of one of his relatives.
Mhm.
And he also says, go to the prophets of your father and to the prophets of your mother. Don't come to me.
So do you think Elisha's impressed that he took down because theoretically this king has been anti-Baal. He's
Yeah,
taken down the shrines to his father's gods.
yeah.
But is Elisha impressed?
No.
So this is why it matters of what the sin of Jeroboam was, because yeah, he did some improvements, but Elisha still sees him as an apostate king because he has not rerouted the people back to Jerusalem. So, he still doesn't care about him.
Mhm.
But because the king of Judah is there with him, he's like, okay, I will help you out a little bit.
Mhm.
And so we see that Elisha says that the waters will be full of the wadis, which are seasonal streams. In the desert, the little wadis, these are basically rivers that only come up during rains and flash floods. But he says these are going to fill with water. You shall have your drink, and not only that, you're going to conquer everything. Conquer the towns, every fortified city, every choice city. The good trees, you're gonna knock the good trees over, okay?
Mhm.
If there's water in Moab, you're gonna put like rocks in the stream so you stop the river from the wadis from flowing. Every good piece of land you shall ruin with stones. Throw rocks in the fields. Why do this second part? Why not just go in and beat the people? Why tear down the cities? Why fell the trees? Why stop the streams? Why throw rocks into the fields?
To gain control of, I would think. I
So how does
mean,
that control a population?
well, you're decimating their livelihood. You're doing away with their water, their timber, their grazing lands. You're, in essence, destroying the environment.
Yes. So when it talks about trees, it's not just talking about timber. It's talking about fruit trees,
Mhm.
which in this region, you have pomegranates, you have figs, you have olives.
Mhm.
Those take generations to grow into productive trees. So
Mhm.
felling a 200 old olive tree
Mhm.
is devastating.
Mhm.
So other ideas of why do environmental devastation while you are there?
Well, it just sets that area back so that they uh, were more likely to stay in line for a few generations.
So there is the like stay in your place. There's another piece of it though. Why would they? This isn't just a I feel inclined to stay in place. This is a you have to stay in place. Why? You can't fight if you don't have food. That's the
Right.
easiest way to say it.
Yeah.
You can't go out to war if you have to pull rocks out of a field. This forces them, basically gives them busy work. So even if they wanted to fight, they can't because things are so devastated at home. To survive, they have to fix the environment. They have to cultivate the trees that just got knocked down. They have to rebuild their cities. This isn't a you should stay at home. This is we're gonna make you stay at home.
So, yeah, okay. You know, all of this is, again, new ways of being cruel.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
This is not allowed under the Geneva Conventions. This today is considered a war crime.
Yes,
Mhm.
it, that's it, you know, oh, well, I don't know what to say. It's just, and this is Elisha's idea.
Yeah, yes, it is. So remember, there is a difference between what people in this time thought God was saying and what we can say, what we believe God is saying.
Hmm.
Because what they understood God to say is not the same as what we understand. But our perception of God is guided by our world.
Mhm.
And so we can look at that and say, that is horrible. And that's okay.
It
They,
seems out of more than was necessary to get Moab in line. They weren't doing anything but saying we don't want to pay taxes anymore.
yeah.
It's, okay.
So let's see, we're almost at the halfway point. Just to get us through the end, what happens is the sun rises and there's a lot of water, and it's somewhere between a miracle or a trick of the sun, where the Moabites look out and they see the landscape drenched in red. And so in their ideas, they're like, oh no, these three kingdoms, they got annoyed with each other. They killed each other. Let's go and attack them. And it turned out that's not the case. And so they were caught off guard. They didn't do their prep. They didn't line up properly. So the battle, they're caught on the back foot, which means they lose. But the last little bit, the king of Edom is evidently stressed enough that he takes his firstborn son, the one that was going to be king, and sacrifices him as a burnt offering. In the Israelite tradition, this is a big no-no. Abraham established we do not do this. Although extra biblical sources do say that in times of war, where a walled city is being besieged, this was not uncommon, unfortunately. The interesting part, though, is the last line. A great wrath came upon Israel, so they withdrew from him and returned to their own land.
Mhm.
What do you make of this last line here?
It sounds like that act ended the war.
It did.
Yeah, I
Why?
mean, well, I guess maybe the Israelites must have been impressed or moved or motivated to go home, thinking that it's all over with and we want. Well, I don't know what they thought. Did they think they won?
So they did technically win. Edom is in line. The king is still alive.
Hmm.
But the wrath did not come upon Edom. The wrath came upon
On
Israel.
Israel. Yes. Yes.
The implication here, it doesn't spell it out, but the implication is that the Edomite God listened. And there's that language implies divine intervention, not of the Israelite God, but of a
Okay.
different deity.
Hmm.
So this is one of those polytheistic kind of remnants. It's somewhat been edited out because it doesn't say, and the Edomite God smote Israel, but
Yeah.
a wrath, which is often done by a deity, did come upon Israel after child sacrifice.
Uh,
So that's just an interesting underpinning.
hmm.
But let's keep ourselves moving. We're about halfway through and we got one chapter left, and this is the interesting one. So we have a series of legends about Elisha that prove his like prophethood, that shows what he was doing, what he was capable of, and his authority. So the first one is a widow who has two sons. Her husband has been killed in the war that just happened. Debtors and collectors are coming knocking at her door saying she has to pay up. She doesn't have anything. And she expects this man of God to help her out. So she asks Elisha for help. And then he tells her to go pour the little bit of oil that she has left in her jug to pay off her debts. So what do you make of this story? Does it sound familiar?
Yeah. Yeah.
One out of many.
Yeah.
Many
So what's
out
it?
of one, rather. The loaves and the fishes.
Mm-hmm. Well, the loaves and the fishes. Hold
Wine.
on to that one. That one's actually
Well,
coming up.
that's coming. But
But
the
this
wine,
one,
what?
the
Well, no, the wine at the wedding.
Right.
So there's one that's closer at hand. There's one that deals with his mentor that dealt with never-ending oil.
Those are no, not the brides.
Do you all remember the Elijah story with oil? Nope.
No, I guess not.
So Elijah has his big showdown with the gods, and he kills all the prophets of Asherah and Baal, and then makes the queen really, really mad, and he has to go on the run, right?
Yeah.
He encounters a widow who has a little bit of oil and a little bit of flour, and he's like, "Hey, give me some food." And she's like, "I'm about to make some hot cakes, and then we're gonna die."
Yeah.
And he says, "Don't worry. The oil will not run out, the flour will not run out." And for the length of time where he stays with her, the oil never runs out.
Oh, okay.
So that is in 1 Kings 17. So not the same story, but we have a repeat in a way. So this one is slightly different. What do you make of, like, where are the similarities and differences between these two stories?
Well, for one thing, she's supposed to go sell this oil
Mm-hmm.
rather than offer it to others. And
Yeah. She's not feeding Elisha with it. She's selling it at
Right.
market. Clay, did I see a hand?
And her children will be taken away as slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't do it.
Yes. So this was a practice that was allowed. There is a section in Leviticus. This is supposed to be for a period of time, but you can sell children to pay off debts. This was a practice. However, why is it specifically dangerous for her sons to be taken away?
Well, she's a widow.
Right. And what can a widow do on her own?
Not much.
Nope. So they want to take her social safety net away.
Right.
Her sons are supposed to take care of her. If they're sold into slavery, she's destitute.
Mhm.
The other interesting thing is that the after she had enough oil, enough money to pay off her debts, they still had a significant amount of oil left. So she, you
Mm-hmm.
know, was it didn't just end with that. She had some resources.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, Elisha says at the end, you can live off what's left.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
he's providing her with, a pension.
Yeah. And I think this is important because widows in this society are some of the most vulnerable people. So this is Elijah protecting a very vulnerable person.
Mm.
And that so it's not just like, oh, I'm going to give you a little bit of a handout, but yeah, I'm going to create a livelihood for you that you otherwise wouldn't have.
Mhm.
So the next story, Elijah raises the Shunammite son. So this
Mhm.
one's a bit longer. This is not connected with the previous story. This is just a story that gets thrown in. So, a Shunammite, this is actually, I need to look this up where this woman is theoretically from. But this is a story where Elisha evidently comes to town enough that this woman recognizes him, and she is evidently she is wealthy, and she decides she's going to take him in and like board him every time he comes to town. And eventually he's coming to town enough, she decides to build a room on the upper levels. So traditional Palestinian houses in this area have flat roofs, and it often operated as like an open air room. In the really hot season, people would sleep on the roof. You could build like a wood lattice to cover it. But the guest room of the house, if you were wealthy enough to get a guest room, that would then be built as a second story. So roofs were kind of this additional space, and she decides to build Elijah a space on the roof.
Mhm.
So all of this is at incredible expense to her. And so Elisha decides to reward her. And what do you think about their conversation about what her reward should be? Because he offers something, and then she asks, or gives a response, and then he offers something differently. So, what do you take of this exchange between these two?
Well, his servant Gehazi kind of identifies that her problem is she has no son and her husband is old,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to fix that. At this time, in this season, about this time next year, you shall embrace a son.
Mm-hmm. So once again, why is it a problem that this older couple doesn't have a son?
Well, that's your succession. That's
Only the sons inherit.
yes. But they also take care of you.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. That's not just your legacy, that's your retirement plan.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, it seems like the place she is from is not necessarily an Israelite town, but a small town in the tribe of Issachar located in the Jezreel Valley north of Mount Gilboa.
Isn't
Um,
that where they found the young lady for King David? What's her
yes.
name? The Shunammite, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is a quasi-Israelite place. It seems like the Philistines also camped in this area. So, anyways, I just wanted to see that. So yeah, so what's the first thing that Elisha offers her though? Because the son wasn't the first one. Yeah, Clay?
He offers to say a word on her behalf to the king. And it's basically, what good's that going to do? Because I have no son and I have, is the king going to take care of me? You know, so that's his first offer.
Yeah. So it's one of those of like, it's in a way an offer like, do you want to be a part of the royal court? Like, I can talk to the king, I can give you a spot in the court. But it's not just that she doesn't have a son. There's another piece of it in her response.
No, I dwell among my own people.
Right.
Yeah.
She's basically saying, my family takes care of my needs. Like, we have everything. I'm wealthy. Like, talking to the king doesn't actually give me anything more than I already have.
Mhm.
The only thing I don't have is a son.
Yeah.
But notably, does she ask for a son?
No.
Hmm.
No, she doesn't. She just says, I don't have one. That is not a request. That's just kind of a statement of like,
Yeah, then one of the servants says she doesn't have a son.
mm-hmm, right. And so Elisha takes it upon himself to give this woman a son, even though she didn't ask for it. So this should remind you of many other stories. Because this happens a lot in Genesis a few other times. What is the trope that is being fulfilled here? The repeat here. This should sound familiar. Who else was an older woman who didn't have a son?
Oh, what's
Sarah?
her name? And Abraham.
Yep, I heard someone say it's Sarah. Yep. Who else had to pray for a baby?
Elizabeth? No,
Well, what were you thinking, Clay?
I don't know. The name Elizabeth is coming to mind, but that could be.
Oh,
That's in the New Testament, and yes, you are correct. Cousin Elizabeth follows the trope. She had to pray for a baby.
mhm,
Mhm.
So we have the three patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
mhm,
We have Sarah, Rachel, Leah, and Rebecca. The only one of the three that doesn't have to pray, or the four of them, the only one that doesn't have to pray for a baby is Leah. But the three, like, favorite matriarchs all had to pray for babies.
mhm.
Any other person who you can think of whose mother had to pray for a baby? There's at least two more.
Jeez.
I believe Samson's mother had to pray for a baby, which is why he got dedicated and he had like all these rules, like he couldn't cut his hair, he couldn't eat
Mm,
grapes.
mm, mm,
And then Eli's mother had to pray for a baby.
mm.
There is a difference here, though. All of those women went directly to God and prayed for a baby. In this situation, the prophet prays on her behalf.
Wow. Does that make a difference?
A little bit in the story. It's just good to note that she doesn't ask, because it
Okay.
comes up later in the story.
Okay.
So, she conceives, she bears a son in due time. In due time implies a year later. So in about a year, she has a son. But when the child is older, there is an issue. He's working with his father in the field and he has a headache. It is very clear the child had sunstroke. He didn't get enough water, he overheated. They evidently didn't know how to treat sunstroke, and so they take him home to his mother and he dies in her lap. But the thing is, the mother doesn't exactly panic. She, without talking to her husband, because he seems clueless in this story, she puts the child in Elisha's room, which would theoretically be cooler because it's upstairs, away from the cook. Like the cook fire would be downstairs. So she takes him to the cooler room upstairs, closes the door, loads up her donkey, and just leaves straight to Elisha. When she's approaching, they evidently see her from far away, and Elisha knows who she is immediately. And he sends his servant to go talk to her first and says, like, something seems weird here. Go see if she's okay. And she says, everything's fine. Why would she blow off the servant like this? Like, everything's fine. I'm just going to keep.
She wants to talk directly to Elisha. She wants to be the one to tell him what's happened.
Yes. She doesn't want to talk to the servant. She wants to talk to Elisha. So she tells him what's going on, and he initially says, okay, Gehazi, I think is how you say it. This is his apprentice. It sounds like in the meantime, he has taken on his own apprentice. Okay, apprentice, take my staff, take my authority, you go. Which makes the implication here is that Elisha is no longer young. He's also getting up in years, and he would rather not travel. So he's willing to send his servant. And she's like, no, 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 no. I'm not leaving until you, buddy. You have to come.
Yeah.
Why is she stubborn about this?
She wants to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
And she also headed out without waiting for a better day, like a holy day. Because they said, why are you going? It's not a new moon and it's not a Sabbath, but she's out of there because she's gonna get to him. I found that, I don't know why, I just found that interesting that wait a minute, you can't go now, Oh yes,
Right.
I can.
That is part of the implication that the husband doesn't understand why she's leaving and may not know his son is dead.
Yeah.
How serious is it? Okay.
Yeah. So it would make sense if the prophet came to town during one of the times where he would do a holy festival. It's not that time. So also rewinding just a little bit, we have verse 28, and this is why it's important that she didn't ask for this. She says, did I ask my Lord for a son? Did I not say, do not mislead me? She is saying, I didn't ask for a son. I told you to not mess with me because I've wanted this for years and now my son's dead. You're gonna fix this, is the implication. You put him into my life, now you bring him back. And that's when he says, okay, apprentice, go fix this. And she's like, no, 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 no. You are gonna fix this.
And also, if the boy would be possibly about 13 years old, if she hasn't seen Elisha in this entire time period, she's got to make sure he remembers what the heck's going on here. Yeah, this is not just tomorrow. This is like a 13-year or 14-year gap. A kid had to be born and then grow up to what would have been a man, like maybe 13, something like that. Yeah. So, I like this gal.
And so the three of them get up and they leave. The young apprentice is able to go ahead, but whatever he goes ahead with the staff and like with all the signs of authority, he's not able to do it. And so the prophet indeed has to come, and he has this odd ritual where he first prays to the Lord, and then he lays his face on the child's face, his mouth on his mouth, his eyes to the eyes, and my notes that I was reading was saying why it happens in 2 rounds is that the prophet got tired and had to take a break and then had to start doing it again. So the child sneezed 7 times and then opened its eyes. So we've talked a little bit about language and some overlap of words. Why would the prophet kind of because he's not, I will say this now, he is not doing CPR. Why would he lay his mouth over the child's mouth?
But remember, we did that. We did mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Mm-hmm. This
You
is
know,
not
that was
the
done
implication is not
in
mouth-to-mouth
modern times.
resuscitation. I will say that.
Hmm.
Because
not,
there's a language reason why that he would be doing this.
well, but to get the breath of life back into him.
Yes.
You know.
And if you remember, we've talked about this a few times. What is the word breath can also be translated in a different way.
Oh,
The breath of life.
but,
Mhm.
spirit.
The
Right.
spirit.
Spirit,
Your
the whole-
spirit is thought to be in the wind in your lungs. And so Elisha is breathing spirit into him.
Oh.
It's not just mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. He may actually be doing mouth-to-mouth, but the idea is that Elisha is pouring his spirit into him.
Yeah.
So when he sneezes 7 times, great ritual number. It's almost like jump-starting the engine of getting like the spirit flowing back and forth into him again.
Mm.
So breath is life because it is spirit. And then everything's fine. But that begs the question, who has raised the dead to life before? Because once again, this is a longer story, but this still is a repeat.
A repeat from Elijah? Or,
yes.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, the water and the oil and the bread, everything's fine. The oil doesn't run out, the flour doesn't run out, but the son does die, and Elisha has to resuscitate the widow's son.
Yeah.
So now we hear in a different episode, Elisha resuscitates the widow's, or she's not a widow, but he resuscitates a son. Who else resuscitates a son?
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
It sounds, I kept thinking, this sounds a lot. I wondered if they took, the writers of the Gospels took some of the ideas from the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible.
They did.
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, Jesus did do these, but why they are significant is because they are repeats. It shows that Jesus is doing the things that prophets do. So Jesus's authority is built on tradition.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And it is sort of interesting. The first time with the all, it was all Elijah's idea of doing it, or it was Elijah. This time, you know, Elisha gets told by the mother, you got to come and do it. You know, it's not like it's his idea to start with, you know, but it's necessary for it to be carried out, of course.
So here's the interesting thing, like thinking of those differences. So Jesus raises more than one child in the gospel, and also different children depending on the gospel. And there are some where Jesus has to go in and he like touches the child, and it's like the child's not dead, it's just sleeping. There's other times like the centurion who comes up and says, speak the word. And he's like, you don't even have to come. You're powerful enough. I trust you to do this long distance. Where we see a range, which is almost an implication that Jesus is doing the same thing, but is doing it stronger, better, more powerfully. So it's not just that it is a copy paste repeat, but a show of Jesus's power is that like, okay, he didn't even have to come and touch the child. He didn't have to breathe life into it. He could do this long distance now.
Interesting.
So this is one where the details are important of like how they're similar and how they're different.
Come
in. Yeah, better mute.
So you're building on each prophet.
Yeah, you are. So we have two more that I want to hit real quick. I know we're low on time. We have 5 minutes technically. So the next one, Elisha purifies a pot of stew.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
at this point, Elisha has gathered a group of prophets around him, so he's gained enough notoriety. He has the Elisha fan club now.
Mhm.
And they want to learn from him. They want to this is a group of people they want to learn from a teacher, learn what he does, all of that jazz. And evidently they're in the wilderness, they collect things, and evidently someone collects some herbs and some gourds. We don't know what these are.
Yeah.
The translators were like, yeah, we don't know what vegetable
They
this
don't
is.
know what they are.
Right.
But evidently they're a little bit sketchy, and they start to eat the stew, and some people are like, oh no, it's poisoned. And so Elisha says, bring some flour, and he throws just flour into the soup and says, hey, it's purified. Even this is a slight repeat. This one's going to be a harder one. I'll be impressed if anyone can bring this out of who else purifies, I won't say stew, it's water, but who else
Water.
purifies the stuff of eating?
Is it one of those where the water comes out of the rock?
Almost.
Uh,
You're in the right part of the Bible, though. Who made water come out of the rock?
Who did that? He whacked on with the staff. Was that Abraham?
Nope,
Moses.
not Abraham.
Moses.
Moses?
Moses.
Moses. Okay.
So,
Does it too?
what was that?
Doesn't Elijah do it also?
Does he? He might.
My references the second chapter.
Okay. I would not be. I will trust you on that one.
Yeah. Not far enough back, maybe.
The story that I was thinking of is at one point when the people are in the desert after they exit Egypt, they come upon a water source, except it's bitter. They call it Mara.
Yeah. Okay.
And Moses throws a stick into the water after God tells him to, and then the water is sweet.
Yeah. See, and this was I mean, the soup wasn't poisoned. They didn't talk about people dying after. It sounds more like they didn't like it. It didn't taste good.
It tasted terrible.
Yeah, it needed a little seasoning with flour.
Theoretically, they are claiming it's poison, but I also would not be surprised if it's just a bunch of whiny prophets who didn't like the soup.
Yeah, that's right.
But then the last miracle in this chapter is that Elisha feeds 100 men. So a man came bringing a bunch of fruit, fresh fruit, 20 loaves of barley, and fresh ears of grain. So he has a significant amount of food for one person, but not nearly enough food for a company of 100 men. And Elisha tells him, like, feed the people. Evidently, Elisha's had enough to eat. I don't know. But he says, feed the people. And the guy's like, no. There's not enough for the amount of people we have. And he says, give it to the people and let them eat. For thus says the Lord, they shall eat and have some left. And they distribute the food. Not only can the company of 100 men eat, they have some left over. Now, this one, we saved the best for last. Who also does this?
Jesus.
Yes! This one's actually, I believe, an Elisha original. I don't believe Elijah does this. And Moses provides food in the wilderness, or like helps the people get the manna and the quail from the wilderness. So there's a little bit of a repeat there, but this one in the way of taking food and making it multiply.
Right. Yeah.
This is kind of the first time we're seeing this one.
Yeah.
And so we have all of these, and we see how they're resonating. These are the things that Elijah did and things that Moses did. So what is the implication that Jesus, we've already touched on this a little bit, but what's the implication that now that you see this so far back in the text, looking at the Gospels and seeing Jesus do the same thing, how does that change those miracles? Does it make Jesus seem less original or more authoritative? Yeah, Clay?
Well, I was just going to say those are precursors to what Jesus is going to do. I think it makes him seem more powerful.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
so?
I think he's also saying that I'm continuing the what happened in the past. I'm continuing what Elisha did.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
if you
he's
believe,
legitimate.
Legitimate, yeah. Larry, what were you saying?
if you believe in a controlling God, then you can say, well, God sent Moses, God sent Abraham, God says, now he sends us Jesus, and he's got all of those ideas,
Right.
all of them in one man.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Right. Rather than like not being like trying to think of how would you know to recognize someone as who they're saying they are? What are
Mhm.
it is said that the Jewish people were looking for signs. Paul talks about this all the time, where it's like the Greek people want omens and the Jewish people want signs. The signs they're talking about is okay, we don't just want anyone jumping up and saying, I'm the Messiah, follow me. How do you know that the Messiah is the one sent by God?
Mhm.
And so they don't really have they don't have a formalized checklist, but all of this still goes back to God sending the people a prophet like Moses. And so Elisha, Elijah is like Moses, Elisha is like Elijah, and Jesus is like all three of them.
Okay.
There is one thing, though, that Jesus does that Elijah and Elisha don't do, which makes him more like Moses. What is Moses's big act? Think of the movie with Hugh Hefner in it. What does Moses do for the people?
Parts the Red Sea.
What's the second big act other than the parting of the Red Sea?
Brings the commandments.
The commandments, right.
Right, yeah.
So specifically, I know we're past time and I am jumping ahead and making this about Jesus. But one of the things that is interesting when you look at the Gospel of Matthew in particular, Matthew's order is a little bit different than the Gospel of Mark. Mark, remember, is the first gospel that's written, and then Luke and Matthew copy his homework. Matthew shortens a lot of the miracles. A lot of the healing miracles become just little chapters. But what you will find is that Jesus teaches on the Mount with 10 big teachings and does 10 miracles. And those 10 miracles mirror these. They're like, okay, he healed this person, he fed these people, and they hit one after another, and it is a sign of Jesus's authority. He is like Elijah, he is like Elisha, he is like Moses.
Mhm.
And Matthew is thought to be written for the Jewish people, which is why specifically Matthew's Jesus looks it looks very Jewish.
Mhm.
So,
Interesting.
with that, we are over time. Any final thoughts for today about this one?
Easy to read.
Any thoughts on Elisha? He's a little less fiery than Elijah, but still doing some good work in the town.
Absolutely. No, they are much more given to miracles and things like that than the later prophets, right? Jeremiah and Isaiah, they're more preachers, aren't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
so that actually is mentioned at some point, I forget where, The northern prophets are more miracle prophets,
Right.
miracle workers.
Mhm.
Southern prophets tend to be preachers of doom and gloom, where the southern
Right.
prophets don't rely on miraculous things as much. They're more about prophecy in the South. So we are fast approaching, when we get closer to when big empires start attacking, we're gonna get some of the prophets. We're gonna get a little bit of Isaiah, we're gonna get a little bit of Jeremiah. We're not going through the entire books, but you're gonna get a taste of each of them. But you will see that the southern prophets are not this, don't act the same as the northern prophets do.
Okay.
So
And if we're ready to move toward next week, we're skipping chapters.
yes, we are.
3 and 4. Next week's is 9 and 10. And from 9 and 10, oh, no, that's right. Well, from 11 to 13, it goes to 16 and 17.
Yeah.
I assume that's a plan. I just don't know what the plan is.
It's one of those that, so this is, we're doing a little bit of a flyby. I'm not going to read all the ones I'm not going to go through all the ones we are skipping. A lot of them are battles and wars, and they don't move the plot along in the same
Mhm.
way, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to, if we're going to finish this book by the end of the year, I needed to kind of speed it up somehow. So I was trying to hit the parts where major things happen rather than talking about every battle and all the context. It's not as theologically important. It's more just
History.
history, right?
History.
So we are going to skip ahead. So 9 and 10 is left, or is next, and this is we are going to get a change of kings. We're finally going to get to the death of Jezebel. Jezebel hangs on for a long time. So feel free if you want to read some of the parts we're skipping over. I'm just not going to touch on them because it's a lot of battles and a lot of wars.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Like that.
what was that?
Sue would like to read those.
So, we are almost there, and I mean, genuinely, yeah, after we get into December, you can say that you have read the majority of, like, from Genesis to Second Kings is a significant chunk of the Bible. So be impressed with yourselves. This has been a lot of work. So, with that, let us pray. Loving and gracious God, we don't always look for the same signs and miracles that people did in the past. We're not exactly looking for someone to multiply food out of a little bit, but God, help us look for the people that do take situations of scarcity and turn them into situations of abundance. We don't look necessarily for people to raise people from the dead, but we still look for those who heal, those who give life where there's no life, those who give promise to a future that is better than the one we have today. God, help us still look for the miracle workers around us. Help us look for the people who give life and help us be one of them. Help us always look for how to make things better, more secure, more loving, more fruitful and abundant. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Chris.
That was beautiful.
Week, everybody.
Take care.